Creative Assembly has finally released an update for their upcoming plans for Total War Warhammer 3. Update 1.1 addresses a number of issues from bug fixes to multiplayer balance. We'll get to that in just a minute. I just wanted to forward this by saying, on a personal note, while the release I would definitely say has been rough, a lot of people I've talked to, both in real life and online, aren't particularly happy with where the game is at right now. I do think, at the same time, that it's a little bit overblown. A lot of people that I have talked to have been quite happy, and a lot of the new systems that are in place are good foundations, but they do need some tweaks and refining. Creative Assembly, I think, made a mistake in the pre-release sort of window, the early access, and the run-up to Total War Warhammer 3's release. They didn't communicate well enough, both to us and to the public, that the priority was going to be on stability and bug fixing, and the balance was basically not even being considered for the first little while, and that is largely proved to be true. A lot of the balance feedback and other, sort of more major points of feedback that we gave during the early access time period are now being implemented in this update 1.1. In the meantime, in the last month or so, we've just had a few stability hotfixes, which were very much needed, but I'm very much looking forward to this update and addressing a number of issues both in single player and in multiplayer. I can say that Creative Assembly is listening. It might not seem like it. This codebase is absolutely massive. Updating and fixing it takes a long time. That being said, they are listening in a way that they really haven't before, and I can't share a lot of details, but I can tell you that they are listening, and definitely look forward to future updates, not just this one, but going forward. Let's get to it. There's nothing in this update from CA about the Blood Pack or about Immortal Empires. I'm glad that Creative Assembly is finally sort of colloquially at least using that name. In the community have been using basically since Mortal Empires came out. But anyway, nothing in that for the time being. We'll probably hear something soon, I would imagine, maybe before 1.1, possibly around when that comes out. We'll have to wait and see. But on to the patch 1.1 itself, a number of changes to make the Realms of Chaos a little bit more bearable, a little bit less painful. A few huge ones in particular regarding the traits from the realms being less strong, and when you win a specific realm, the traits from that realm will be removed automatically, like when you defeat the Demon Prince and claim the soul. Likewise, the Demon Legendary Lords will no longer be burdened by the negative traits of their own patron god, which obviously makes sense. Likewise, a bug has been fixed where if your lords, any lords, could get corrupted by, corruption on the campaign map, and if you're playing demons, they basically couldn't ever lose those traits because they had to be in an uncorrupted province. Now you have to be in a province of your own corruption, right? Whatever that may be. Protection building chains can now be used to prevent rifts from spawning in the province which they're built. Another absolutely massive one, something that a lot of people will really enjoy from a sandbox perspective, being able to pick and choose where the rifts spawn. You can choose to just not have any rifts spawn in your territory at all, or you can strategically place them to farm them for golden XP for starting armies. For armies that you're building up to send to the front, or, to teleport your legendary lord to a specific place from a specific place, right? I definitely think being able to customize where the rifts will spawn in your territory is going to be something that most people love. Likewise, when you defeat an AI Lord at the Forge of Souls, you reset their soul count to 0. I think this is maybe a little bit extreme. It does mean that you can effectively just ignore, which I guess is what some people will want anyway, ignore the race for the souls for the most part and just defeat the AI Lords when they get the Forge of Souls and win on Domination. There's a lot of ways to approach this. I think generally these changes are all very positive, but the Souls race won't be so much of a pain to deal with. People will have more opportunity to choose the way they want to play the campaign, which is I think what most people want. Personally, I don't really mind the rift mechanic. You play around it and plan around it, it can definitely be very fun, I think, even as it is right now for me personally, but I understand not everyone feels the same way. Supply lines, there's the big bug fix there. We'll see on this next one, Infantry Responsiveness. This is one that affects every aspect of the game. I mean, whether playing campaign or multiplayer, you play battles, right? So being able to kind of fine-tune those mechanics and make the battles better is definitely a positive. Hopefully, archers and other skirmish infantry in particular will function better with this change. faction balance. They're not going to go into specific changes here, but I did want to go over this. I thought it was pretty interesting that they're back to sharing win rates, and this is something they did a long time ago. Over the life cycle of Total War Warhammer 2, they didn't really do this a lot, but it is interesting to look at, especially this low number of factions, sort of the sample size of domination and ranked matchmaking. And Cathay, man, poor Grand Cathay at a 32% win rate. Just absolutely terrible. They'll definitely be getting some love. Likewise, Ogre Kingdoms and Tzeentch consistently overperforming, so I expect they'll receive some nerfs. We'll see more of that in just a second. But it's interesting, you know, Kislev, I think it's interesting that they're not doing well in domination. I think Kislev is actually a really strong faction. I don't know if that's just specifically that they're getting wrecked by ogres a lot, what's exactly happening there, but I'm kind of surprised that Nurgle is ahead of Kislev, although I guess on ranked matchmaking it does maybe make sense. It depends on the skill levels of the player, but a skilled Nurgle player will be able to hold against quite a bit of stuff, more than you might expect. Maybe Nurgle is not as weak as people. Anyway, they talk about not only units performing in ranked matchmaking and in tournaments, which shows us one thing very important. Creative Assembly is watching the competitive scene, even if they aren't making decisions based exclusively on it. They are watching it, and it is factoring into their decision making for multiplayer balance, which I think is great. Taking feedback just directly through their own observation is, you know, what we're all doing as well, watching and casting these tournaments. So I think that's a great way for them to go about it. Anyway, going on to some of the plan changes. Ogre Kingdom's general overperforming, like I said, making significant adjustments to units based on community feedback. So I'd imagine Gorgers and Iron Blasters are two probably that will get pretty heavy nerfs. We'll see. Grand Cathay, they are best when their army is large, which I would definitely agree, such as in land battles, which is why they are increasing the size of all starting armies in domination. I don't get any specific numbers yet, but I know this is a change, you know, regardless of Grand Cathay. It's interesting that they kind of nested this change. Very important in the specific part of the article, but yes, that's right, folks. Domination modes getting tweaked, and you'll be getting more funds initially. I think to have a larger starting army, right? That's the way I'm reading this. So I'll be interested to see exactly how the numbers fall and how that changes gameplay, but certainly it will make domination, I think, more appealing to the people who are still holding out on land battles, which I understand. Kislev slightly underperforming, seem to be performing adequately in a tournament environment, basically what I was saying, right? It's weird to me that they're not doing good in ranked matchmaking. Maybe just people are not, I don't know, aren't used to their playstyle. They're not spamming enough war sleds. I'm not really sure. Speaking of which, there are a few units that particularly stand out, like light war sleds, looking to make smaller tweaks while observing the effects of other changes and bug fixes. I didn't really, kind of just skimmed over the bug fixes in general, but there are some. Oh no, wait, they're further down. That's right. Anyway, it's a long article, a lot to go over here. Nurgle's been doing well in ranked matchmaking, but struggling in tournaments. Concerned that the slowness of most Nurgle units makes them vulnerable to larger armies with ranged firepower, so I'd expect maybe they'll get a little bit faster. In Update 1.1, fixing several issues with charging, bracing, and impact damage. So this is going to affect, you know, every faction, really. But Slaanesh especially, their chariots notably have not been functional at all. So that should make their chariots much better, and a lot of their other, you know, high-impact charge units much better in general. Slaanesh, you know, not doing direct charge damage via impact sort of hampers their devastating flanker ability pretty substantially. So I'll be curious to see how crazy OP Slaanesh might get after this update. Depends on how, you know, how effective those fixes actually are. It's also going to affect, you know, Ogre Kingdoms, Kislev too. I mean, really all the factions, to be honest, in terms of cavalry and chariots especially. But even probably some monstrous units too. It's like Ogre cavalry, I'd imagine will probably get a lot better. We'll see. That might be part of the issue why they're so bad, is this sort of charge being bugged. But anyway, Khorne also, they're pretty happy with Khorne. I would generally agree. Khorne seems pretty well balanced. Like, yes, their melee units are insanely strong, but they're somewhat limited in terms of flexibility, and they don't have any magic or abilities really, so that's fine. Yeah, overall I would say, again, we don't get any specifics here, but all of it looks great for the most part. Bug fixes, as I said already, they're going to be doing quite a bit of this. Alt-Tab Crash Fix. This is, a lot of people don't play on windowed mode. I pretty much always have, but for those of you who don't, this should help you. Gifts of Slanesh. I'm not really sure there. Some soft locks, crash fixes, achievement issues, much more. We'll have to wait and see for the full patch notes what all of the bug fixes are, but regardless, I mean, it's just there's plenty of bugs to be fixing, right? So they're also adding, very important to note here, the assembly kit is still in the works, but workshop support and mod manager will be available with this update as well. So those of you guys who are out there working on mods can release them on the workshop. We'll have to see what exactly this entails. Hopefully what this means is that people can make mods that add in the Game 1 and 2 factions that can actually check you own those DLCs so they don't break the terms of service or, you know, count as breaking the law, actually. But we'll have to wait and see on that one. I did ask CA, but I didn't get any clarification yet on that point, so I'll have to let you know later on. But beyond 1.1, we'll hopefully hear more about Blood Pack, DLCs, Immortal Empires, all that within, you know, a week before or after 1.1's release. Hard to say, but they did mention earlier it should be early April that this update releases. So, I mean, we're already more than halfway through March. I would expect really, hopefully 2 weeks or so before we see this update, and definitely looking forward to it on a multitude of fronts. Probably we'll get back to campaign streaming once we get this update. The reason I've been holding off is just that I played a lot in early access. I played about 300 hours in early access, and I feel like I kind of got my time in, you know. This game is somewhat limited in what it has to offer in comparison to Total War Warhammer 2, just because the faction variety, lord variety, unit variety is not quite there like it was in that game, which is understandable. It's just kind of the nature of the beast. Not that that's necessarily a bad thing, but I have been playing other games in my free time, still playing some multiplayer, absolutely, still recording some content and enjoying it for you guys to also hopefully enjoy. But there will be some other content, you know, kind of in the meantime. I'm going to be actually probably mixing in some Skyrim streams coming up. I've got a mod loadout I'm working on to do like a handgunner / pistolier build for Skyrim. And of course, we'll still be doing plenty of Total War Warhammer 3 multiplayer content up until 1.1. But once 1.1 comes out, I think I'm going to jump much more heavily back into hosting events. Balance will be in a little bit of a better place, I think, just in general, and more interesting. It won't be Scrag, Gorger, Iron Blaster every single game. Just as we're recording this, Turin is currently streaming a tournament that I've been watching and enjoying, but it is kind of hilarious to see some of the builds on there. It's like, oh wow, you took 2 Gorgers and an Iron Blaster. So creative. I don't know. It is what it is, but hopefully things get addressed in 1.1 and beyond. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this little news update. If you like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you next time.